Good evening. Thank you very much for coming. Um, Sheriff, thank you for the knowledge and the data that I had no idea about, but now I do know better. And thank you all for coming. I know today is the State of the Union, and you much rather see that, and you came to hear me and the Sheriff, so we do thank you. And I do what I want to do today is to be able to speak with you what I think on a deeper level is the problem that we all face. And we heard from the sheriff some of the crazy laws that the legislative bodies, not just in Maryland but all across the United States, want to pass. And throughout my studies and my philosophical thinking, I've always been asking, what is the true problem that we all have? What is the core issue, and how can that be fixed? So I want to share with you my story, what I think is the main issue, and hopefully one day we will see a solution to all of that. So as Steve said, my name is James Tarantin. I came to the States as a teenager, really for the hope of living the American dream. I came here legally, but when I landed, I realized that truly the cards were stacked against me. I had no money, I had no friends, I had no family, I had no good connections that were present to support me at the time. And 7 colleges had denied my student application. And for 10 years, I had no health insurance at all. I lived in a poor studio apartment and literally was denied by hundreds of jobs of different kinds, shapes, and salaries. And tougher than everything, for a decade, the pain of celebrating your birthday all alone in poverty, and for so many nights I had to go to chefs and ask them to give me food because I had nothing to eat. So they would literally smuggle to me. I would go there at midnight. They would smuggle to me the leftovers of what they had at the restaurant, and I would take it. And that's what you have to do when you're hungry. And during my decade of poverty, I still decided to take the initiative, and I wrote a book that simply tries to capture what I think is the equation of success. And shortly after that, I opened my company, but unfortunately 180 investors almost refused to invest in it. And I had no partners, I had no employees, I had no office, and I had a 580 credit score, so no bank was willing to give me a credit line or anything of the sort. But I worked very hard, and because of my fierce belief in our conservative and traditional values of self-reliance, self-discipline, and free enterprise markets in one nation under God, as the pastor said at the beginning, my company made millions of dollars, and today I live in Maryland, as you heard, in Montgomery County, with my wife and my son. And every time I look at and I understand some of you can see my story as a story of a self-made man or rags to riches or whatever you may call it. But every time I look at the American flag, which is right here, and I see those 50 stars and 13 stripes, I always understand that my story truly embodies I think what our founders wanted of the American dream, and that I believe that every citizen of this blessed land deserves to experience this amazing birthright of this American miracle. So I am here today because I do realize that the American dream is not a reality for tens of millions of people across the coast and in our heartland. And I'm here today because I do believe that our traditional values of family, faith, love, and light are truly under assault and are, I think, on the edge of the abyss. And I do believe that we have a moral GOP role to teach people that it's not about giving them free fish to dine on once or twice, but it's the idea of how to teach them how to fish so they will be self-reliant for life. Because some people just want to give you free fish and then you get debts, but you don't really teach them to be self-reliant. And I think that's the key thing that we have to do. But however, I do think that the biggest disease in the world is that people really don't accomplish what they want and they don't live the American dream. Andrew Carnegie who was one of the wealthiest people of all time, said it is one of the tragedies of civilization that we have not found a way to give every man the sort of work he likes best to do. Now, some of you, unlike people around my age, don't know, but this painful quote can be better even explained through the words of Marlon Brando. If you guys ever saw one of his movies, he said, "You don't understand. I could have had class, I could have been a contender, I could have been somebody." And that question, I think, has been asked not just people like you, but millennials and people of all races and colors across this country. So I've always asked myself, what is the cause of this problem? What is that root that really doesn't allow people to accomplish what they want and be happy? That is the key of everything. That is the question. Now, I'm not saying that I have the answer, but there are tensions and explosive problems in every generation. You know, we have different governments, different nations, and we have a violent fire in the Middle East. We put it out, and then it explodes in Africa. Then you have a violent fire, and something explodes in Africa, and it explodes somewhere else. So there's always the same thing that has been happening for decades and centuries. And I do think that the biggest problem that the world faces is corruption in politics. I think that I know it, you know it, and the whole world knows it. That is the key of everything. All the other problems that we face, I'm not talking about spiritual or religious things. I'm talking just in terms of mankind and what the world faces. And there's a beautiful quote that Benjamin Franklin said, "Few people in public affairs act with the good of their country in mind, whatever they might say on the contrary. No one in public affairs act out of general benevolence. As such, almost no one in public affairs ever acts with the good of humankind in mind." That is the biggest problem we have. You know, we can be here all day long and talk about we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to change that bill, so that bill will be passed, and then a horrible bill will come again. That is the core of all problems. If all the people in the Senate and Congress were Mother Teresa, we would not have this meeting. We would not have this meeting today. Everybody would go and have fun in Paris or whatever it is you want to go to. But we would not have this meeting. And hundreds of articles show how the rich are stashing cash at record levels while the people are stashing poverty and shame. Hundreds of articles show us in real life, real-time stories of how career politicians were caught in the action of corruptions. Hundreds of articles state that our government is but the personal secretary of the rich, of which passes laws to make certain that the odds will never be in your favor. Hundreds of articles that state that justice truly only favors those that have money. Justice only favors those that have money. That is the sad truth. Think whatever it is you want, but it's not a Republican truth. It's not the Democratic truth. That's the truth. It really does. You are not going to defeat somebody who has $100 million. He will beat you in court even if he did the most horrific thing. There are exceptions, but generally that's the case. Hundreds of articles state that and confirm that if voting changed anything, they would have made it illegal. If voting really changed something. But it doesn't. We vote, we keep on voting, another guy, and nothing really changes. The same story in a different title. Hundreds of articles state that no shackles really have been broken in the past 200 years. The harsh old chains have been replaced but with slightly more comfortable ones. And think about it this way, is that a poor man can steal an apple and will be a thief for life. A politician can do all of what I just said and will still be in power. That is the biggest problem that we have. Not about a bill here and a bill there. It's like somebody taking an Advil if he has cancer. It's not going to help you. And I believe that the result of all this corruption is that families cannot pay off their basic bills. Mothers do not have the basic dignity of maternity leave. Human trafficking, drugs, and violence, which the Honorable Sheriff is dealing every day, poison our streets and the very fiber of life. The youth is facing a mountain of college tuition debt that they don't need and doesn't help them to get any job whatsoever. Good men and women are fired from their jobs and are replaced with robots. Inaccurate data and paid ads by the media blur your ability to make really good decisions. We are being brainwashed by these ads. So we think we have free will. But sometimes you have to ask ourselves, are we really making choices that we decide, or are we really being brainwashed? Because how can you defeat a machine of spending $200 million on making you choose or making you decide something that may not be best for you? It's very easy for especially young people to be influenced by these massive propagandas. The mental health of tens of millions of people is declining fast. Forests and rare animals species are vanishing at astounding speeds, as we see today in Australia. And global terrorism is still threatening the world, along with government's tools of terror, of taxes, lies, and the rising living costs. So when I see all of this, I always ask myself, do we really have a fair chance of fulfilling our dreams? Does this system really allow us to make our voice come alive? And do we just have freedom on paper, or are we truly free? You know, it's very easy to have freedom on paper, but the question is, are we truly free? That is the ultimate question. And I believe that the American dream and the Constitution, to some degree, are breached as long as this problem is permitted to stand. You know, a beautiful thing that a pastor told me once, a long time ago, and I wrote it. He said, prosperity for the few without opportunities to all is another form of poverty. Freedom on paper without a just system is another form of chains. And peace on paper without real unity is another form of war. You know, when I tell this to young kids, they tell me, wait, how could this have been happening for decades and centuries and we didn't do anything? And I really do believe, as I said previously, that this rigged system succeeded to create this propaganda that just fundamentally influences our minds. There's a joke saying that the system influences you to vote for diplomats and politicians who can tell you to go to hell in such a way that you actually look forward to the trip. You know, the conservative leader David Cameron, he was the Prime Minister of Great Britain, said that scientists once debated the idea of replacing politicians with rats. There is no shortage of them. Nobody cares what happens to them. And there are just some things that rats will not do. That's unfortunately what David Cameron said. And I do think that life is too short for us to wait for protocols and procedures and buttons and machines and rockets and computers to endow us happiness and cure the core pains of mankind. I do believe there is the fierce urgency of now, and I think that now is the time to really get free from government grip and experience the American dream on the grand scale. I do believe in men, I believe in America, I believe in the American citizen. And what I want is that people of all races and colors to really achieve what they want in life and experience the American dream for them and their families. And I think to end my address to you, I think it would be fitting to remember the words of Ronald Reagan, who said something really beautiful. He said, should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? What about the honored dead who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis? Well, maybe there is a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance. End quote. I thank you all very much for coming. May God bless you. May God bless the United States. And I really hope one day we can live in a world full of light and happiness for you and your families. Thank you very much for coming.